What is going on, homies? It's your boy Stump back for another Optc video, and in today's video, the double treasure map is finally here. We have treasure map Queen as well as treasure map Komurasaki coming to Optc Global. So with this treasure map, it is a little bit wonky as we do have a lot of extra boosters, and as you can see, we do have the trusty characters that are Olin and Choppermon, but we did skip treasure map Komurasaki, which means we can pick up Komurasaki along the way. Let's make sure that we click New World, definitely. We can pick up Komurasaki along the way, but the main prize here is actually Queen. Now, Queen, if you don't know, is an exceptional Rumble unit, and is actually a pretty decent free-to-play unit. So I definitely recommend maxing this character. I would highly recommend using a Limit Break key purely for Rumble, so that way you can max out the stats, as this is the start of the quick-driven resurgence that is coming to OPTC, and has been sort of dominating content for the last, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months on Japan. So just be mindful of that, and this is a really, really good time to start building up your free-to-play units. Stuff like Invinkov, the Clash Invinkov is really good if we're looking at Rumble. Raid Bellamy is an exceptional unit. I would highly recommend maxing him out. He's got very, very good limit break, as well as... Okay, I really want to just get to the end and not take on any mini-bosses. He's got a really good limit break. He's got double special activation. He's a driven unit. He's great in Rumble as well. And then that way, if you guys pick up stuff like Kaido, if you pick up stuff like Magellan, Super Type Luffy, Ace versus Kainu, mainly talking like versus Kainu here, but if you guys pick up those units, you're going to have a really good time, and not only just like quick GOPS challenges and stuff like that, but especially in Rumble. So we're going to stop rambling now, and we're actually going to take on the first mini boss. I'm hopefully going to get the invasion, which is against Olin. So against Olin, you do want to try and bring obviously as many point boosters and your high point boosters as possible. So this is the particular team that I have built, but I will be using Olin as a friend captain in the early stages, as that way I can just sort of maximize all of my points, as Olin is just a crazy point booster. And Kaido should be able to do most of the heavy lifting moving forward. As long as we just get a boost with both our Olins, we should be fine. So on the first stage, we actually come up against Otama. So Otama is going to give our Dex and our quick characters special charge, but with the point boosters, we basically have all of our specials ready to go. On stage 2, when we come up against Choppermon, he is looking pretty bedazzled because he's just seen a big mama. He gives us 3 turns of like a 1.1 times attack up, as well as a 1.1 times orb boost, and he does damage, which means Kaido is just going to destroy him without even needing to do anything, which is actually pretty cool. It makes that stage really, really easy. On the final stage, we come up against Olin, and Olin is going to have resilience for 5 turns, and she gives us 4 turns of burn. So we can actually use our Olin special here. Olin's going to remove those positive effects, as well as give us an attack buff. As mentioned in my initial playthrough video, you guys can actually use like TreasureMap Big Mom or Arena Frankie. That's another really, really good option for taking that down. We're going to use Choppermon here. Choppermon can remove the resilience. You can also use a ship to just do end of turn damage, like the Dreadnought Saber. Will work really, really well here. That way you can just do end of turn damage. We have Otama. Otama can give us an orb buff, as well as lock out orbs. We have a chain lock with Frankie. Otama's really, really good at removing the barrier as well, so that's another thing. And then we can just finish it off with Kaido. Kaido's just going to do a heap of damage, and then we can just sort of win. And we don't even really have to worry about the burn. There's no revive mechanic or anything like that. Just remember, you do need to get around the resilience somehow. And even if you don't get around the barrier, don't stress too much, because you can just hit your perfects and you will be hunky-dory. So that was Olin. Let's fast forward now. We're going to move to the end of the treasure map, and let's take on the mini-bosses over there. Alright, so we're over here at the mini-bosses, and the first mini-boss is against X-Drake. Now, X-Drake is stereotypically the easiest. This is the team that I did put together in the the prep video. So I am going to sort of rock with that to begin with. I'm probably going to need a double Anil, but I did see some cheeky shenanigans from like Chaozu and stuff like that, utilizing treasure map Kid. And I'll probably, if this sort of takes too long, I might sort of look at sort of switching over to that option. But stereotypically, just with utilizing Enel on the very first fight, we can easily just single tap, let Enel just do all the heavy lifting for us, and make our way to the end. The only downside to using someone like Enel is actually getting our cooldowns ready by the final stage. But having a look here, we don't really have too many issues getting our cooldowns. We might need to incorporate someone like TreasureMap Frankie. TreasureMap Garp. TreasureMap Frankie. I was looking at Frankie, that's why I said Frankie. To implement him to actually give us the cooldowns, because once we get to this final stage against X-Drake, he gives us a full board of block orbs. With Brûlée, we can remove those, so that's absolutely fine. I guess we can just use our Luffy special. Luffy's going to give us an attack buff, and we should just be able to single tap here and take out X-Drake. Easy peasy. So Enel team doesn't have too much issues. Like I said, depending on how I feel this treasure map, if I do want to go for ranking, as I do have all the boosters, I will try and make these 10s a little bit faster. Stick around for the streams. Shout out to everyone that's in chat at the moment while I'm recording this. But keep an eye out, because I will be doing a lot of streaming throughout this treasure map, as I do plan on using like a lot of stamina to try and rank up and utilize the points, the boosters that I do have. So on to the next fight, we come up against page 1. Now against page 1, the recommended character is actually Bonekichi Brook, but I actually am going to be using Kaido. Now Kaido is really, really good because we can, hang on, let me just switch to same character, because we can hopefully just cheese most of it depending if we do get damaged. Now I do have the support of Smoker on this team, Smoker giving us an attack buff, and we do have a color affinity booster on the final stage with Ace, which is really, really good. But as long as you guys have Bonekichi, you guys are going to be fine. Hey, we got the Luffy. So I guess there's a Luffy interrupt where Luffy runs in and he actually just gives you your specials. I think there's one of those like on every single treasure map nowadays, which is really, really cool, because I wasn't sure how this team was going to go with cooldowns, but usually the 1.35 times boosters get nice cooldowns, so it shouldn't be an issue. Once we get to stage 3, as you guys saw there, we're just going to pop our Zoro specials. Zoro is an excellent unit to chuck on like any team where you can fit him, mainly so he can just board wipe stage 3 and 4, making it so easy. The first 2 stages aren't that big of a deal because you can just single tap, but once you get to those sort of 4 and 5 units, it becomes a pain in the ass. Against page 1, he gives us a full board of unfavorable orbs and defense up, so that's why utilizing Bonekichi Brook is absolutely amazing, because there's only 1 unit, so we get a conditional against defense down, and we set the defense to 0, and then that way we can just go boom with Kaido. See you later, Bob's your uncle. Let's move on to the next fight. Alright, so the next boss fight, we come up against Jack. Now, Jack is actually a strength unit. Once you get your hands on Queen, you can actually chuck Queen on this team, which is really, really nice. Against Jack, the recommended characters are both Hiyori and Lucy, the Pirate Rumble Lucy. So ideally, you really want to try and bring 2 Lucys if you can, mainly because their special can remove 2 turns of attack down and 2 turns of despair, which is really, really handy on the final stage against Jack. As against Jack, he has 4 turns of despair, or 7 turns of despair actually, so should go down to 4 with sockets. That's something I should have checked actually before I just sort of slapped Queen on this team. I should have checked my sockets, but look, it is what it is now, we're here. With this particular team though, as I mentioned in my prep video, this team unfortunately doesn't really have any sort of cheese way of getting more damage output for like blitzing mob stages. Now, I have thought about utilizing Kid on this particular team, and I might actually do that. So chucking Kid on this particular team over like Beige and Pez, you will get a little bit less points, but because Lucy's actually a striker, you can use his special on turn 3 and then just board wipe stage 3 and 4 super easy. That way when we move on to the final stage against Jack, we can just basically use our specials, and especially with Queen, once we max Queen out, we can easily just do a bunch of damage as Queen does heaps and heaps of damage. So against Jack, we get 4 turns of attack down, 4 turns of despair. We can just utilize both of our Lucy specials here, getting the orb buff, thank you to Lucy's special. We can remove the attack down, we can remove the despair, and then with Hiyori, she can give us some matching orbs if we have unfavorable slots, as well as give us an attack boost as well. With all our other characters, like, we don't really need to be utilizing their special. You could actually use the Beige special first and then like get a full board of orbs with Hiyori. That should work absolutely fine. But as I mentioned, if you do want this to go a little bit quicker, you could easily just add Colosseum Kid instead of Beige. That way, just blitz your way through stage 3 and 4. But that's the fight against Jack. Let's move on to the final mini-boss now. Alright, so moving on to the final mini-boss fight now, we actually come up against King. Now, against King, the recommended character is the TreasureMap Komurasaki. So, ideally, you want to find a spot for Komurasaki on the team somewhere. I'm just going to chuck her on for now, but once you do kill... do I actually not have any Kaido friends live? Is this actual... Oh, no, there we go. So once you actually get the team, so the Komurasaki maxed out, you want to slide her in there. But because I don't really have her maxed at all, in my other video, I was looking at utilizing Sanji and Pudding, as Sanji and Pudding is another really, really good way at removing Threshold. But you can also utilize their support of Mistems. Now with Mistems, once you get hit with paralysis, you can actually remove the paralysis and give yourself like 70% damage reduction, which is great. So that's how I was going to start by doing it, and then add Komurasaki or Hiyori, whatever you want to call her, onto this particular team. Now, with this particular run, I have planned on utilizing a friend Kaido. With Kaido, he boosts strikers and powerhouses, which most of this team actually is. So with Vivi Rebecca as captain, they're a striker. Gukimaru is a striker as well. I think the Hawkins and the Otoko aren't, but Komurasaki definitely won't be as well. So you can actually still get a fair bit of damage output, but because we're using Kaido, we're just relying on his Blast Burn to sort of just do all of the damage for us. It just makes this a lot easier and less thinking when you are doing this, especially if you are doing lots and lots of runs. So that way you can just sort of mindlessly tap while you're doing other stuff to take out this particular stage, or each particular stage I should say, and then that way we can get to the final stage against King. Now against King, he gives us 2 turns of Paralysis, a full board of Unfavorable Slots, and he has 5 turns of Threshold. So to remove the Paralysis on this particular team, we're using Gukimaru, and as you guys saw, we do have the support of Apu on Gukimaru. That way we can actually just give ourselves a full board of Dex slots. Then we can switch with our Vivi Rebecca. That way we can give ourselves a full board of orbs because Dex is favorable with them as a captain. And then with that, we should just be able to single tap and just take out King. Now, once King dies, he does a butt ton of damage. I think it's something like 50,000 damage. So you do want to have some sort of damage reduction, but if you are utilizing a team like this, as you can see, we have 61,000 HP, so that end of turn won't do too much. So slapping Komurasaki on from the get-go should be fine. So let's move on to the final boss stage now. Alright, so moving on to the final fight now against Queen. Now, the recommended character for Queen is obviously the TreasureMap boosters and Zoro. Utilizing Zoro, he's just an absolute weapon for this particular fight. So if you don't have him, I would highly recommend trying to find a friend Captain Zoro, as there is a lot of special bind and there's actually special reverse. Now, I do imagine there isn't another way around that. I haven't really looked into it too much, as I do have the boosters. But I would just highly recommend trying to find your friend Zoro or something like that, just so you can just avoid the special bind, avoid the special reverse that gets inflicted to your crew members as well. And that way, you're just going to have a good time, you know? And then that way, you can sort of just fill the rest of your team out with some higher point boosters. As once you get to this final stage, this is where most of the points actually come from. So you do want to make sure that you have, like, your highest amount of point boosters to obviously still beat the particular piece of content. With the mini-boss stages, you don't have to worry about them too much. They don't give you that many points. So if you don't have all the point boosters, don't stress. You just want to try and beat the content as quickly as possible and as smoothly as possible. Alright, so on to this stage against Queen. Queen's going to bind our middle row, give us a full board of bomb slots, and give us slot bind. So that, special bind. So that's why having Zoro as a captain's great. We can use the Otama special here. She can remove the bind and lock our orbs. And then we can actually use an Olin special. Now, I totally forgot that Olin actually removes positive buffs. So we actually lose the orb buff through Otama on this particular stage. But as you guys see, like it's not going to matter in the early stages. But just make sure as things start to get a little bit harder, then you do want to actually make sure that you use Otama second. Now, once you get to this final stage against Queen, Queen is actually going to roll our crewmate specials back by 2 turns and give us special bind. Now, if you guys did the last treasure map, you guys will have your hands on treasure map Garp. Garp can actually roll specials for, which is really, really good. But you still will need to get around the special bind somehow. Now, I think the Roger batch is boosted, so you could use something like Neko. But like I said, just bringing a Zoro works really, really well, as that way you don't have to worry about all the mechanics on this final stage. You can remove the special bind. You can easily get your crewmates cooldowns with the Zoro special. You get an attack boost and an orb boost, and then if you use the super typing, if you find a way to put a straw hat on the team by utilizing someone like TreasureMap Luffy, who's really, really good, you can then use the super typing to actually get color affinity as well. And with that, all we need to do now is remove the damage reduction, which is really, really strong with the Choppermon special. So we can remove that, and then we can say goodbye to Queen. Sanji's just here for extra points. But there you guys go. That was the TreasureMap playthrough against TreasureMap Queen. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you did, make sure to go down there and belt that like button for me. If you're new to the channel, hit the big red subscribe button too. But guys, wherever you are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Lights!